Optimal experience of being human has been a passion of mine for as long as I can remember. And Abraham, what you teach has brought a lot of that to me. There's another aspect of being...
That's what we call tuned in, tapped in, turned on.
Yeah. There's another aspect of being human that I've experienced little moments of, but would like to experience a lot more. You wrote about it in the journal, the quarterly journal that you gave out today, when you talked about like a musician becoming one with their instrument. And the Hindus talk about it in light of becoming no mind, where there is no thinker, there's just a person that's being.
Well, we are going to nitpick a little bit about that because we do not believe that it is possible to be no mind, because that's paramount to saying no vibration, which is paramount to saying non-existent. But we think what they're reaching for is no contradiction to that which is mind. In other words, and feel how they could mean this, and they do. In other words, it's been misunderstood and understood in a variety of different ways. But think about the contrast that you're living causing you to launch a rocket of desire, which source joins immediately. So there is that vibrational point of relativity that when you come into alignment with it, you could call that a sensation of no mind, in the sense that there's no contradictory thought going on within you, and you are at one with source, at one with spirit, at one with who you are. And that's really, really what they're talking about. Becoming no physical mind in contradiction with the mind that I've evolved to. Because we promise you that they are not talking about non-existence.
Right.
There is no such thing as a mindless state. But in human form, there is such thing as a contradiction to the mind that is me, and there is such a thing as the alignment with the mind that is me. But there's no such thing as a mindless state when you are mind.
Okay.
And just to carry that a little further, for those that you want to make the argument with, it will do you no good because they've made up their minds anyway, but you think a thought, and as soon as you think the thought starts to think. So good luck on finding any mindless place.
So what would you say, speak a little bit more to getting to the experience of, like, say, being a musician, being one with the instrument, of how to get to that place.
Well, the first thing that is required is an understanding of your instrument. In other words, when Jerry and Esther first began receiving us, Esther was, at first, spelling letters in the air, which was very awkward. Jerry would wake her up in the middle of the night and prop her up in the bed and ask questions for a few hours. Talk about a crick in your neck. And then it began flowing through her fingers. She began typing it. And at one point, Esther was considering moving to another typing apparatus, and she asked us, should I get this new machine? And we said, for now, it is better that you stay with what you know, because the less you have to think about what you're doing, the more easily it is for you to translate this new experience into that. And so we would say to anyone who is becoming a painter or a musician, become familiar with your tools. In other words, learn your instrument, learn how to make the sounds, learn how to make yourself come through it. And then once you've learned the basics of the instrument, then you can get into that place of connection, and your source can play your tunes. So it's not so much becoming one with your instrument, the horn, or your instrument, the banjo. It's becoming one with the source that is you, who will then flow the whole of you through your instrument. That is really more the message that we are speaking. Get tuned into who you are and then play. Get tuned in with who you are and then sing. Get tuned in with who you are and then write. And most people who are in the creative arts, everything is creative, but in that specific way that you mean it, most of them know that, because they know that the most of the work in writing a book is getting into a place where you can receive the book.
Right.
Most of the work in writing a song, we see people attempting to write a song and they struggle and they struggle and they struggle and they struggle and they struggle, and then they get high, or then they meditate, or then they sleep, or whatever, and then the song comes through them in a matter of a minute or two,
Right.
when they've worked on it for months. So the time, the creative endeavor is about becoming one with you, and then you can let your music of choice flow through you.
So I've sat in front of, using the writing analogy, I've sat in front of a computer screen just stumped. And your suggestion would be go meditate, or any other suggestions?
Our suggestion would be do anything other than sit there and amplify the feeling that you're stuck.
Right.
Our suggestion would be read something that rings your bells. Read something that you wrote that rings your bells, or something that somebody else wrote that rings your bells. Remind yourself of things that have worked well for you. Remind yourself that sometimes it flows more easily than others. In other words, that would be like going to Yuma and demanding that you be in San Diego. And we say, give it time and you will be, but don't demand it. Conrad Hilton said, just let it be. Don't force it. Just let it be. Trust it. And in time, what happens, as we always say to our physical friends, start with something easy. Don't take the issue that you've been dragging around a long time, that you've practiced all kinds of resistance about, and then let that be the process through which you try to show yourself what a good creator you are. Start with easy things. Start with finding the bathing suit, like she said. In other words, that was an easy thing for her. There was no resistance. It was easy to focus. So start with easy things until you show yourself how natural it is for what you want to flow easily to you. And then you can raise the stakes. But what we really want you to understand is that the process is what you want to have faith in, not the specifics of the subject. Because different subjects you have different degrees of resistance about, where it's pretty easy to teach yourself faith or belief or expectation or knowing of the process. So when you remind yourself, law of attraction is, and law of attraction works. And you remind yourself, my guidance system is, and my guidance system is an accurate indicator. And then you remind yourself, I do have the facility to choose a better feeling thought no matter how bad I feel. And I do have the mechanism to sense the feeling of relief from my better choice in thought. Therefore, if I can release the resistance from here to here, I can release it from anywhere to anywhere in time. So the process is valid. The laws are valid. I'm worthy. Life is supposed to be good. I'm supposed to get what I want. The universe is set up that way. It's just a matter of me finding my place within the framework of the things I want and just showing myself that I can do it. That's the sort of conversation we'd have if we stood at a distance from anything we want. We'd say, it will come in time, and I'll figure it out, if not today, on another day. And there's no big race anyway, and it's being held for me in vibrational escrow. And my source knows I want it and is already over there offering a vibration about it. And I will find my way to it. I am finding my way to it. And life is pretty good anyway. And look how well things are going. And doesn't it feel good to be alive and to know this? And don't I just love my emotional guidance system that is letting me know how I'm doing vibrationally? And isn't it wonderful that I live in this contrasting environment that continues to give birth to new desires? And isn't it wonderful that my inner being immediately joins those desires, which give me that fabulous 1 point of a 2-point vibrational relativity system, so that I always know in every moment where I stand on every issue. I can tell by the way I feel. And isn't it nice that nobody else has anything to do with that it's just me and my 2 points of vibrational relativity? And now suddenly all of the things that I've thought that mattered, and all of the people that I tried to please, and all of the rules that I tried to keep, now none of them are relevant. The only thing that is relevant is where I am in relationship to where I want to be. And I can affect movement every single moment of every single day, because I've got guidance within me that lets me know whether I'm moving towards something that I'm going to like when it manifests, or whether I'm moving towards something I'm not going to like when it manifests. I'm in charge. I'm fully free to do or be or have whatever I am choosing. There is nothing that prevents me from any of the things that I want. That's so good to know. I love knowing that. Now, am I doing it right now? Maybe not. But the laws are valid and my guidance is valid. And when I get to that place of focusing without contradiction, then the evidence will show itself to me again and again and again. And in time, you just get to this comfortable place where you just know whatever you want will come. So it's just a matter of letting your contrasting life that is full of data help you to discern what you'd most like. And you're no longer trying to factor it in with what everybody else thinks you should want. You're using the criteria that you were born with, that your 12-year-old still remembers. In other words, you're using the criteria that matters most to you, which is how you feel in the midst of it. You're a creative genius. And when the energy is flowing, it is like the breath of life that you're always reaching for. But we want you to reach the place that when it isn't flowing so much, that you don't freak out. In other words, sometimes you run and you breathe more, and sometimes you sleep and you breathe less. In other words, it's always there for you. There is no risk whatsoever.
Speak about creating my soul's desire when like that necessitates someone else's cooperation or support, and they don't feel that, you know.
First we want to say to you that satisfying your desire, which your source has come into alignment with it, so you're calling it my soul's desire, requires no cooperation from no other. It only requires cooperation between your vibration and your vibration. And when you come into alignment, the universe will yield to you all other necessary cooperation. But when you believe that it hinges on that other person and you see them not cooperating, now your energy is split and now you're not fulfilling the only thing that matters, you see. So interesting to watch people. So easy. This one wants something, this one wants something. You blame each other. Neither one of you are in alignment, and you keep blaming each other. Neither one of you are in alignment. We say, leave each other out of the equation. Get yourself into alignment.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Talk about the level of, of action. Like you were just that. How. When I have an idea, and I have lots of intense ideas, and there's no way I could possibly do everything that I want to see happen.
So what, do you need to eat all of the good food now?
No, but it's...
So what difference does it make? In other words, if what you are doing is causing alignment and giving you incredible pleasure, what difference does it make what you're not doing? If this moment is a moment of alignment, then what possible difference does it make what the endeavor is that's causing the alignment? In other words, how good can it get?
Right. Yeah, so focus on the alignment rather than the specifics of wanting.
Feel the alignment. And we want to say to you, and in a totally loving way, and you'll understand it, that you wouldn't ask that question from a place of utter alignment.
Right.
Because it is a lackful perspective.
And from a place of alignment, it becomes apparent when action is called for versus just sitting, with the desire like Conrad Hilton's.
Action is never called for. Action is called for in the sense that it is inspired. But action is not necessary for the creation of anything. Alignment of energy is. But action from a standpoint of alignment is really, really fun. So you can get in alignment and be inspired to action, and the action can enhance the sensation in the same way that the kids want to hold their arms up when they're going down the roller coaster ride. In other words, it just exaggerates the sensation, you see. That's really the way action is. It exaggerates the sensation of achievement and success and accomplishment, but it is vibrational alignment that is the reason for it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, indeed.